Hey, podcast family. Welcome to another episode of Motherhood in Black and White. I'm Kaanji.
I'm Tara.
And we are coming to you this episode with open hearts and full glasses. I have in front of me a glass of my most recent find in 2020. It is Snoop Dogg wine.
Yeah, you posted about this.
I have posted about it,
this.
and I thought it was appropriate for our theme this week. We're going to talk about the mommy wine culture.
Yeah.
So in early June of this year, my husband let me know that Snoop Dogg had partnered with the 19 Crimes winery out of Australia to create his own wine. I thought this was brilliant.
That's very smart.
So a couple of months later, he was able to find a bottle of the red blend and he got it for me. And I thought it was great. And I posted about it. And so many of my friends were like, oh, I want to try it. I want to try it. It was great.
Yeah.
It was so great that I sent my husband back to the store that night. He came home with a case and I was like, show me your love. Show me your love. And we were talking about how like the mommy wine culture, it kind of has been something that has just blown up over the last 5 or 6 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the mommy wine culture, it's not about just wine.
Correct.
It's about women who are moms who have alcoholic beverages to kind of take the edge off, right?
Yeah.
But also I think that might sometimes lead to unintended consequences.
Yeah.
There was a study that came out that said that since 2013, there has been an increase in the number of women and mothers who are engaged in high-risk drinking activity, which is more than 4 drinks a day or a week?
More than 4 drinks a day.
More than 4
drinks a day.
So I'm good.
You're like, I counted them. I'm okay.
Yeah, I drink a couple of glasses of wine a day, a few days a week. And for me, I found that it's become a lot of a social thing.
Yeah.
First day of school, when we returned our kids to school last month, a lot of moms were like, let's get together and have a glass of champagne to celebrate our kids going off. Or let's get together and have these brunches. And the mommy wine culture has kind of taken on a life of its own.
Yeah. I feel it's not even just about the drinking anymore. It's like this entire, what's the word for it? A demographic that it's got its own marketing. You know what I mean? You can go online and you can buy T-shirts and tumblers and bags and hats, and alcohol is marketing to this demographic in a big way. I mean, it's become more than just like, oh, mom needs a drink. Now it's like a social construct. You know what I mean?
You'll go to any social media page and be like, I'm drinking this wine because my kids whine, you know? And it's like to deal with the overwhelming
cute memes,
right? To deal with the overwhelming demands of parenthood, a lot of moms have turned to alcohol.
Yeah.
And sometimes I don't feel badly drinking a glass of wine right now because I'm in my house. You know, my kid's here. I don't plan on, I might not even leave the house for the rest of 2020, but I'm very safe about it. But I've also been in situations where we'll be at the soccer field and some of the other moms have alcohol in their cups.
Yeah.
And I'm really aware of the fact that a lot of moms are out there who are then getting in cars and driving their kids.
Yeah.
And so it seems like we've gotten to a place where it's celebrated, it's marketed to, it's encouraged, but there also can be a potential downside there.
Yeah, it's a bit of a slippery slope.
I found that to be the case. But you raised a really good point about marketing. Yeah. Because wine can be marketed to everyone. Snoop Dogg has shown us with his wine that you can market anything to anybody.
Well, and let's take one brief moment and discuss how Snoop Dogg will not be pigeonholed. This man can do it all.
Hello.
Can do it all.
So what I like about Snoop Dogg, which is basically everything, is how his manager is the most brilliant person on the face of this earth because he has pivoted in a way that very few people can.
That's
He's like, I'm not about the gin and juice life anymore because my audience is not about that life anymore.
A commercial with Martha Stewart. This man, let's just small sidebar. Snoop Dogg is killing it in the market.
Snoop doesn't need a small sidebar. He needs his own show. We need to do a show about how Kaanji #loves Snoop Dogg. So he has his relationship with Martha Stewart.
That's correct.
Which has brought him to a whole new generation of people.
Right.
He's realized that his core audience, #us.
That's right. You know, me and you at this table.
We are women in our 40s. So he's like, I'm going to now market to y'all. I'm going to bring out and have this wine. Yeah. Snoop Dogg wine.
That's right.
You know, and then he's also going to be a sushi chef.
Yep. That's right. That's right.
Because we all eat sushi. Yeah. And so he's pivoted and he's realized, like you said, the demographic is this group of women who are now in our 30s and 40s, who originally grew up, maybe some of us, I might be telling a little bit on myself, drinking St. Ides and Tanqueray, but now have switched to drinking wine to kind of take the edge off. Yeah. There's also a marketing effort that's gone into, we were talking earlier, you had said this drink that I had never considered, White Claw. White Claw. So what is White Claw's like?
Here's the thing. I don't know. I know
I've never had it either.
Yeah. It's in a can. I think it's a seltzer. They call it a hard seltzer now. Okay. I think it's just it's like it's like an alcoholic liqueur. Ooh. I don't know for sure. I know. But that's my guess.
I've never had one either. I maybe need to step up my game. It sounds really fancy.
Well, and that goes to the point too, that the drink industry is crazy, right? Like you were saying, we had like 2 or 3 things when we were young, but now there's this entire, you can get any flavor, anytime, any kind. You want bubbles, you don't want bubbles. It's bananas, the options.
I think that the marketing has done such a good job. You also have multi-level marketing companies that are now reaching out in this space. It's like, we're also going to sell wine. Yeah. And wine now gets delivered to your house. Yes. And so for a lot of women who are in positions where the demands of motherhood can seem to be a lot. It can be exhausting. Yeah. Get to a point where it's like, I'm exhausted. I'm going to just go ahead and reach for a glass of wine. Yeah. And for me, I do a gut check sometimes. There are members of my family who struggle with addiction issues. So I'm like, well, I'm just going to stop drinking for a few months and see what happens there. Yeah. But then, my husband comes home with a case of Snoop Dogg wine and that's out the window.
Well, I'm trying to support Snoop Dogg. So
everything we do is about supporting Snoop Dogg and Dog.
Funny.
Yeah, that's it. So I'm going to sip on this Snoop Dogg Red Blend by 19 Crimes while we have this conversation. And I didn't see what's in your cup.
So for me, I just have my very favorite English breakfast tea in my cup.
You so fancy.
I am a little fancy. I do like fancy, but so my story on that is I actually don't drink at all.
Oh, really?
That's correct. So I, a little over 19 years ago, I stepped into recovery. I'm an alcoholic and cannot drink normally. So I don't. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, really. Yeah. I'm very grateful. I've got a lot of recovery on board and I feel like I have recovered from that, and I do it a day at a time, but I was sober several years before I became a mom. And then when I became a mom and as Gage got older and I started kind of getting into those mom circles, I really started to notice this mom wine culture. And it's interesting for someone who doesn't drink to see it on the outside. Because first it can be a little like I'm excluded. I'm like, well, I don't drink. And I'm not super out about it. I don't like walk around with a sign that says, hey guys, I'm sober. But
of course you're not super out about it.
Yeah, but I'll go to parties or I'll go to they'll drop the kids off and they'll be like, hey, let's go have a drink. And I'll go hang out and I'll just drink orange juice or I'll drink tea or whatever. And I never think about it. And I very rarely have anyone say, like, oh, how come you're not having champagne or anything like that? So I've found that while it felt like I was excluded at first, I've slowly realized that it's really not that big a deal, But it is sometimes weird when people make the jokes, and make the comments about—
What jokes?
Like mommy needs wine because you whine, or if you combine wine and dinner, the new word is winner.
There's also a meme that was, I'm on my 2nd or 3rd glass of wine because I have children.
Right. They'll just be like generalized comments in the group, like, that's why we drink, right, ladies? And I'm just like, oh, I don't drink. You know what I mean? It's just like, there'll be generalized comments like that don't apply to me sometimes.
Your recovery journey started, you said 19 years ago.
Yeah.
You're younger than I am. So
it was a couple months before I turned 22. So, I stopped pretty early. Yeah.
Had you started drinking when you were 21?
No. No, I'd started probably regularly in my early teens. Mm-hmm. And of course, in your early teens, accessibility keeps it at bay for a while. And then when I turned 18 is when it got really bad. So I had a good 3-year run of really testing those limits as hard as I could before I had to stop.
What was it that led you to seek recovery?
I was just having this conversation with somebody else. I will say that I had a little bit of experience with family members that were in recovery. So I knew what it was and I kind of knew where to go. And I just knew I wasn't normal. I just knew I wasn't doing it like everybody else. Even though at my age, we were all kind of, at 20, everybody's partying, it kind of looks a certain way. But I knew that there was something different about the way that I did it and that I was headed there.
What did that look like?
It looked like an inability to stop once I got started. Like I just didn't have the ability to stop. Once I had one drink, that was it. We were on, and it wasn't going to stop until I shut down. And everybody else seemed to be able to walk away, and I couldn't walk away. And I think that was the biggest indicator for me.
You were 22.
Yeah.
So that's a lot to reckon with at that age.
Yeah.
How were you able to then navigate recovery?
I just, that's a big question. I just kind of did it like they say. It's very cliche, but it really is just one day at a time. I mean, there is work there was and continues to be work required of me. It's not as easy as just putting down the drink. If it were that easy, then you would just stop drinking, right?
Yeah.
There's a mental aspect to it, and then there's a spiritual aspect to it. It required me to look at some old ideas and some old things, and to pick up some new ways of coping and learn some new tools and tricks for getting through life on life's terms.
Was there an intervention?
No. I had a night out, and it was much like any other night out. And it was just one of those things where I just woke up, and for whatever reason, that day that I woke up, I just didn't think I could go on the way I was going on. It just didn't feel like I was going to make it. And then the good news is, when I spoke to a friend of mine and said, tried to apologize, she confirmed it. And somebody outside finally went, yes, something's wrong with you. And so it wasn't like a group. It was just like one person that said, yeah, I think you need to look at that. And that's all I needed, was just one person to tell me, like, hey, I think you need to just go check it out. And so I just took myself into the rooms and started doing the work.
And has there been any instances of is the appropriate word relapse?
Oh, yeah, that would be a good word. Or slip. Nope, slip. I have not. I've been very grateful, very blessed. I have not had to try it out again yet, and hopefully I won't have to.
Oh, thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah.
Your vulnerability and your strength and your ability to talk about this issue. Is it something that you feel like you share a lot with moms or with people? I guess what I'm trying to ask is, sometimes when you meet people, you kind of have to explain who you are,
right.
And that's a part of your identity.
Right.
It's like but it kind of feels like a coming out. Like, like
it's a little bit of taking my heart out and it's showing it to people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you feel like there's a time or a place or a way that you do that and you share that with people?
I'm pretty open about it. I mean, I just said it on this podcast, so everybody's gonna hear it there.
Everybody knows.
Yeah, like I said, I don't necessarily walk around with a shirt that says it, but if it comes up and I'm asked, or if it comes up, we were saying, if I'm in a group of moms and they're all drinking and someone asks me while I'm not, I'll say, well, I don't drink. And sometimes that stops it. And then sometimes I get more questions like you've never, or did you ever? And I just simply say I did. And it just, it wasn't good for me. And so I quit. And sometimes I've had to actually take it one more step forward and just say it out loud. Mm-hmm. But most of the time people pick it up. They're like, oh, okay.
Right.
Especially if you're running in a good circle of people, which I typically
You keep really good company.
I do. I keep good company.
Tip my hat off.
Yeah, toasting your Snoop Dogg wine over there. But it's been interesting to watch, because I get this question sometimes from friends of mine that aren't moms. And, we talked about this mommy wine culture, and they'll ask me if that's hard for me. And, to see it, to be around it a lot, and, have it come up. Because like you said, soccer games where they're all drinking, or people, I little something in my coffee this morning, does anybody else want some? And it's never been hard for me. And it's probably because I've got a few years on board, right? I'm not brand new, and I've had some experience out people drink in the world. You got to walk around and do this thing, even if you don't. Everybody else does. It's part of the deal. And so I experienced that with moms too. But I've had it come up where a mom has off to the side asked me more questions about, what it looked like and how they're feeling, or just checked in. And I'll say, I don't carry judgment,
Right.
You enjoy the wine. More power to you. I can't. That doesn't mean you shouldn't, right?
Right.
But like you said, I would say that I do encourage people to consider some mindfulness around it, right? I do get upset about the marketing that sort of celebrates that that maybe the only way to solve your stress or to feel better is to have a drink, when there's a lot of different ways, right? To sort of soothe discomfort, before you just pour some alcohol on it. And so sometimes I can get a little worried about the message that women are receiving about what it takes to feel comfortable, oh, if you want to feel comfortable in a situation, you should drink. I'm like, well, there's a lot of different ways to find comfort. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Well, I mean, wine mom humor. And that's the whole thing. It's wine mom humor. It's something that can feel like it's cathartic to some of us.
Yeah.
Without realizing how problematic it can be for others.
Right.
So it's not just the marketing. It's also the entire culture that it has created. And this is an area that I'm not really familiar with. I think you're probably the only mom friend I know that's in recovery. Yeah.
Okay.
So excuse me if I sound ignorant in some of these questions,
okay,
but
no.
Does it bother you when I drink around you?
No.
Okay.
No.
I drink. But I've checked myself because I know that addiction does run in my family. And when Roman was little, we would go to the grocery store and be like, look, it's mommy juice. We'd go to the wine aisles. And I'd laugh it off.
Yeah.
When I found out I was pregnant with Roman, it was Memorial Day weekend in 2008. And we were coming from a wedding. So I was actually intoxicated when I took pregnancy test.
Wow.
Because I was like, wait, my breasts seem a little bit larger.
Yeah.
And I said, well, I just got married a couple months ago, so maybe they are big. But when I took the pregnancy test and came back positive, it's like, oh, well, I'm not drinking again. And I did not drink again, have any desire to drink until Roman was like 5 or 6 months old. And my husband and I went away for a friend's birthday celebration. We went to an island and left Roman with my mom. And we were there and I was still breastfeeding. And so, but then all the other moms that were there were like, oh, just pump and dump.
Yeah.
And you have to drink. And so it gets to a point where sometimes I feel that some circles, it can be encouraged to drink even if you might not want to.
Right.
And makes excuses like, oh, well, you're getting away or you're just relaxing.
Yeah.
Have a drink.
Yeah.
And some of us might not realize what it looks like or what it might feel like to someone who's in recovery. And it's just not something I'd ever considered.
Yeah. Or even somebody who maybe they're not in recovery, but maybe they're doing their own sort of, experimentation or gut check on it. You know what I mean? Maybe they're checking themselves a little bit. Yeah. It's one of those things. There's a great author and influencer in the world. And she does this, I'm not drinking right now experiment quite a bit. And she sends these messages out to people like, well, what do I do when they ask me why? Or what do I say when they ask me more than I want to answer? And she's got great, her name is Melissa Urban. She's the Whole30 creator, and she's got great input on just responses to those kind of questions. As a person who's answered those questions for a long time now, I can tell you that it's really just, a boundary that you have to set for yourself, right? You're like, if I'm not going to do it, I'm not going to do it. And they can ask me all the questions they like. And the answer is just that I'm not drinking right now. And it doesn't necessarily mean that I have to own up to anything or give more than I want. It just means that I'm not drinking right now, but it can be difficult. And I think at the bottom of that, like even this whole mommy wine culture, there's a solidarity in it. And I think that there can be a ripple of tension when not everybody's on board. Yeah. Right. You had mentioned that earlier. You said that sometimes you feel like you're an outsider. Yes. And there are lots of circles. Sometimes I feel like I'm an outsider when, and not to conflate our experiences at all. No, okay. I hope you realize that's not what I'm doing. Yeah. But sometimes I feel like I'm an outsider when a lot of stay-at-home moms are like, oh, we're going to do this brunch on Tuesdays. We're all going to go to yoga and then we're going to do brunch. And I'm like,
I'm going to be at work
on Tuesday.
Like, can we do this on Thursday at 7 p.m.?
Yeah.
Can we just do it?
Totally.
But so you have circles and you have groups that are like, oh, we're going to regularly get together. We're going to do this. We're going to have our weekly brunches. We're going to have these weekly wine toasts. We have this wine, mommy and me wine club.
Right.
It's goat yoga and wine.
Right.
Or, things like that. And I just have never thought about what it must feel like to a mother who's on a recovery journey.
Who doesn't drink. Yeah. Right. I don't know. I think it's different for everybody. And I'm sure that I can't speak, just as much, even though I'm in recovery, I can't speak for everybody's experience, right? Everybody's got their own experience.
Right.
I just know for me, it's typically a non-issue. You can call it what you like. You can make plenty of wine jokes. It does not bother me. Mm-hmm. I don't drink. That doesn't mean you can't make jokes about it. You know what I mean?
I'm going to make
Wear the shirt. Yes, please drink your wine.
I will.
That's your experience. This is my experience. But I do think that the other side of that is that, like you're saying, now that we talked about it and you kind of know, like, oh, I hadn't considered it. I think it is just, in general, we've talked about this before, for people to consider that everybody's not having the exact same experience you're having right now.
Right.
Right. And so, it's important to, when you see someone or you hear someone say, no, thank you, I don't want to drink, or, I'm good. You guys enjoy, but I'm good. To let them have that experience and realize that just because they're not drinking doesn't mean we can't have a group experience, or just because that looks different doesn't mean we can't all still have a group experience.
That's exactly.
You know what I mean?
No, that's so powerful. Thank you for that. When I'm outside of the house, when I'm places with Roman or if I'm places with other kids, I'm extremely cognizant of the fact that I'm responsible for this other human, and you never really know what it's going to look like. I grew up in a house. My mom is a single parent for most of my upbringing. She's never had a drink. She never had a drink a day in her life. And for most of my life, people have been trying to get her to drink.
I know.
It's like we'll go to events and be like, oh, it's your 40th birthday. Why don't you have a drink? Or it's your 50th birthday. Why don't you have a drink? Or your kid just graduated from college. Have a drink.
Yeah.
People are like really trying to get her to drink. And she just doesn't. Yeah. She has never had a drop of alcohol.
People take it like a personal challenge.
Right. And then they're like, well, how is Kaanji your daughter? But when I'm in places, if I'm out with my kid, I'm like, I'm going to have one glass and that's it. Right. Because I don't know what I need to be. If I'm with my son and other people's kids, I'm like, I'm not drinking because I'm responsible for these humans. And so that's kind of how I navigate it. And then also, now that I'm approaching 50 years old, I realize that there is a relationship between alcohol and breast cancer. And for whatever reason, a lot of the researchers don't know why, but there is an increased risk of Black women getting breast cancer if they drink a lot.
Really?
Yeah. There was a research study done, University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, a couple of years ago, 2017. And it showed that Black women who consume at least 2 drinks a day are 33% more likely to develop invasive breast cancer than white women.
Wow.
Yeah. And also, Black women don't get breast cancer at rates as high as white women, but when they do, they're more deadly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's with breast cancer and also with breast cancer and also with colon cancer.
Wow.
And I just have always guarded my health. And so I'm like, if I'm drinking, I'm going to have no more than 2 glasses and that's it. If I'm out, I'm going to have 1 glass.
Right.
But that's also something that's always in the back of my mind. There's the health issue there too.
Yeah.
The mental health component of it is something that I think I should probably take more heed of.
Yeah. It's hard. I try not to. I'm not a preacher about it. I say to each his own, and just because I can't drink normally doesn't mean that other people shouldn't or can't. I will say that as someone, like similar example, a couple of years ago, I had a really rough run of anxiety where I was literally like having panic attacks during the day. Like it was getting really rough. And I was in counseling, I was getting help, and she and I were discussing if it was time to try medication. And, we were just talking about it. And I'm like, I don't know. I'm open to it. Whatever, I'm always, whatever I need to do to take care of myself, I'm willing to do it. And what she and I ran through was, well, there's 10 steps between what's happening to you and medication. And those 10 steps include, taking better care of your body, getting more sleep, less caffeine, exercise, specific things you can be doing to help your nervous system. There was a lot of natural, normal things that I wasn't doing to take care of myself that if I tried some of those could help reduce my anxiety. And so she and I discussed it. And we said, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to take 3 weeks before you come see me again. I want you to do these things. And if you're not feeling better and you really feel like it hasn't changed in your brain, then let's talk about medication, right? Let's just give it a shot first.
Right.
And spoiler alert to that, everything I tried worked. I was able to not that I wouldn't, not that there's anything wrong with medication, but I was able to self-correct by just taking a little bit better care of my body. I was grateful for that. I would say the same thing about drinking and the stress of motherhood and the stress that we see day to day, because that is the message that we're sending out to women, which is if you are stressed and struggling and feeling a certain way, have a drink. There are 10 steps between you're feeling stressed and having a hard time and take a drink.
But not in today's culture. There's just that one.
It's just like
get
drink.
Get the corkscrew.
So, hey, I'm not saying don't have a glass of wine at night. I am going to say, consider for your own mental health, are you exercising? Are you getting sleep? Are you getting outside? Are you drinking water? Are you over drinking caffeine? There's a million things you could do, even if you tried 2 of them, that could help take the edge off a little bit. And so maybe you just need 1 glass of wine instead of 4 glasses of wine.
Yeah.
Right. The other message that we were talking about earlier about postpartum depression and postpartum anxiety, you and I separately were talking earlier about it. I get worried that women are going into motherhood and coming through these emotions that are brand new, and the marketing they're getting is take a drink. There's a lot more to do to take care of your mental health. And again, that's not saying you don't have a drink, but just consider the mindfulness of thinking about what's really happening, checking yourself against the feelings that you're having, how far they go, and if you're taking care of your body and mind first. And if that's the case and everything's on track and a drink of wine helps you relax at night, then go for it. You know what I mean? But I just think there's a lot of steps between one and the other.
Yeah. Does Gage know you're in recovery?
Yeah. So that's the other side of it, right? Gage doesn't, he knows I don't drink. He hears me all the time talking about it and stuff. I haven't sat him down and talked him through it yet. We've started to have that conversation about what that's going to look like and when we have that like face-to-face conversation about it. And that's the other thing I think about with our kids, this message that self-medicating with alcohol is the way to solve and cope with your stress is problematic. And so I think for Gage, I'm glad that that's not the message in our house. You know what I mean? But he has asked us before, like, what is wine? Because he's heard about it all the time. That's the thing. It's not in our house, but it's in.
Have him talk to Roman. My son could tell him everything about wine. He's like, do you need to know about Cabernet Sauvignon or do you need to know about Merlot?
He saw like a tool, like I want a basket, and it was a kitchen basket, but it had all this wine paraphernalia in it, like a corkscrew and like little things to put on your wine glass and blah, blah, blah. And he's like, well, what are these? And I'm like, oh, it's for wine. And he's like, well, what is wine? And I'm like, well, it's a grown-up drink and it's alcohol. And well, what is alcohol? And so we had a pretty scientific, cut and dry conversation about, well, it's a drug. It changes the chemistry of your brain and it, creates these kind of feelings. And we just kind of talked through it and like, why do people drink it? Well, this is kind of why. But he knows it's, illegal till you're 21 and you can, there's more to it than just, trying it out or whatever. So we've had that conversation like at a low level. He's definitely getting into an age where we know we need to start talking about alcohol and what that would look like, responsible drinking as he gets older as an adult. But we also have to have this conversation like, there's a genetic factor to this.
Yeah.
The odds are not in your favor, son.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I don't know what that's going to look like yet. And we've started talking about it a little bit more because he's definitely getting into those double-digit years. And we want to talk about it before his friends start talking about it to him, So he doesn't know the whole story, but he knows enough for now. Yeah.
So you've laid the foundation of what to say to him.
Yeah.
And you guys are going to continue that conversation.
Yeah, 100%,
right?
Yeah.
Roman, thankfully right now, he doesn't see the need or the desire to engage in any sort of adult-like behavior, with the exception of using adult words. So, I've never called them curse words.
Yeah.
I call them either adult words or lazy words. Mm-hmm. And he's like, well, why? And I said, well, because it's an adult word.
Yeah.
It's not a bad word.
Right.
It's not a curse word. It's an adult word.
Yeah.
And when you're an adult and you live on your own and you're making your own decisions, you can choose whether or not to use this word.
Right.
But I also think it's a lazy word sometimes. And if it's lazy because there are other words that can be used to express how you're feeling. And that's the word. Those are the words that I want you to include in your vocabulary.
Yeah.
It's like, Mommy, you lazy a lot. It's like, yes, Mommy can be lazy with her language a lot.
I remember the first time that came up, just to talk about that for a second, we did say bad words just because I think it's what we're used to hearing about it. And Gage said, I mean, but can I go to jail? Like, no.
You can go to jail in your house.
You can go to mama jail.
Yeah. It's
anyway.
like, no, yeah. You know, that's how it's like we try to figure out what to say and don't want to say the wrong thing. You don't want to encourage them in a way that is, beyond whatever it is that we're supposed to encourage them to do. But definitely it's not do as I say, not as I do.
Yeah. Have you guys, have you considered, I wonder how that works in houses, where the parents drink and the kids see it. And I mean, even just in a regular responsible drinking house, right? Do you plan on having like a conversation about it? Or are you just going to let him kind of see what you guys model? I mean, are you going to sit him down and talk about like, hey, this is going to happen? I
hadn't thought about that, but I think that I'm a big believer that you have to be intentional with parenting. And I think that we have to figure out, my husband and I, like, well, what is this conversation going to look like? Is it a discussion, and when are we going to have it? Because we have to realize, like you and your family, we have the genetic component of addiction that runs in both of our families. And so we need to make sure that he's aware of some of what it would look like potentially for him,
Have you heard or seen, like, Gage has come home from, Red Ribbon Week at school and talked about like what they learned, and it's always very age appropriate, right? So they haven't gotten into the deep dive yet, but he's definitely come home and like talked to me about some of that stuff, and I've asked questions about what he's learning on that side. Have you guys heard anything from Robin? Does he pay attention to that stuff, or is it just kind of in one ear out the other?
Like most things with my son, I'm sure it's in one ear and out the other, but he hasn't mentioned it yet. No. But we have an open door policy when it comes to talking about certain things. And he also knows like what happens in this house stays in this house. But he also knows that his father and I are open books, and we share with him what is age appropriate. Yeah. So
it's interesting. We both, we've talked about it, how that'll look different for him than his other friends, and how we kind of broach that subject when it comes up. But I've answered his questions to date so far, and he's been satisfied with those answers. So hopefully I'm doing that okay.
You are doing better than okay. You're doing super, super great. So as we get ready to wrap this up, and again, this episode kind of took a turn that I wasn't necessarily expecting, but I thank you for being vulnerable, for being open, and for shining a light on a perspective that I just wasn't aware of, and potentially the impact of some of the things that I do. So thank you so much for that, and for just being you. But is there anything that you would like to share with some of the moms that are listening about if they are having challenges, or maybe doing that reflection, like what they can think of or what they can do, or
what I think I've seen that I'm pretty hopeful about is there has been an increase over the last couple of years, but an interesting little statistic I was reading is that since January of this year, there's actually been an increase of people doing more experimentation with sobriety and like being a little bit more mindful about their alcohol consumption. There's a lot of sober mom activity on social media. Like, I know you're going to see a lot of the mom wine clubs, but there's actually several sober mom clubs as well. There is support out there available if anybody is thinking that they want to sort of check themselves and be more mindful about their alcohol consumption. And I would encourage that. I'd also tell you that there's a spectrum. I land at one end of that spectrum, but there are plenty of people out there that fall into more of a heavy drinking category, or just on the weekends, maybe go a little hard, but they could stop if they needed to. So it's not as black and white as it used to be. There's a lot of in between. And so there's so many different ways to experiment with sobriety, try to be more mindful about how you're coping with your stress and how you're coping with your emotions. There's a lot of options out there. And so I would just put that out there, that the good news is that I think at one point it was either all or nothing. And I don't know that it is for me. Mm-hmm. And I know that for myself, but it's a very personal decision. And I would never tell anybody else what their decision needs to be. But the good news is there are a lot of options out there for anyone that wants to just take a look at their own drinking habits and their own coping mechanisms and look for a better, more moderate way to kind of handle their feelings.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It does.
Okay.
No, thank you so much for sharing that. Thank you for sharing your story and for sharing your heart and for just being you.
Yeah.
Before we get ready to wrap up this episode, let's end with just one rapid fire question.
Okay. Right.
I know.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, ready?
Mm-hmm.
Because this is ultimately an episode about Snoop Dogg.
Of course.
Deep
yes,
down.
please.
Snoop.
Uh-huh.
What is your favorite Snoop Dogg song?
My favorite Snoop Dogg song. I mean, can you beat Gin and Juice? I just don't think you can. That song, I mean, you know how some songs are just like, when you hear them, you know exactly where you were when you heard them the first time,
yes.
exactly where you was. And that one is that for me. I mean, I can still sing I can rap every word of it. Anytime I go exactly right back to where I was the first time I heard it.
And I'm failing at parenthood because I don't think my son knows any Snoop Dogg songs. He knows all of this stuff by the baby.
It's kind of hard to listen to Snoop Dogg on the clean version, though. That Doggy Style album was not child appropriate.
It's not clean. When I would teach it at the cycle studio, mm-hmm. I couldn't find a clean version.
It's impossible.
Of Doggy Style.
Yeah.
And I would love to play, West Coast music. I'd like to do themes. So I was like, okay, I'm just gonna have to talk over when he's when he's saying the adult words.
Yes.
And I couldn't talk that much.
In his, it wasn't even just like the adult words. It was like an entire adult scenario. Like I could take the bad words out, but you know what he's talking about. It's just not even worth it. What about you?
Drop It Like It's Hot.
Oh yeah.
Oh, come on now. Now I'm gonna have to be leaving out of this room.
Man, that album. Oh my gosh, that whole album. I mean, you can get Pharrell. Oh gosh,
everything that Snoop does.
Beautiful. Oh gosh.
And Snoop has just kept it going with his his news venture. So Sushi and Snoop and wine.
I'm so glad that, the next generation gets to enjoy Snoop Dogg. They're not maybe they don't get him like we got him, but man, the fact that they still get him is just totally worth it.
Yes, I can't wait to see how he reinvents himself.
Oh my
next.
gosh,
I'm nervous. I'm scared, but
I just don't want to do the Snoop Lion thing again. Can we? Let's just stick with what we got.
Definitely. So thank you, family, for joining us for another episode of Motherhood in Black and White. Tara and I are so thankful that you reached out to us and that you listened to another episode. And special thanks for Tara today for sharing her story.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. As always, we love having you join us each week. If you're listening to us on Apple or on Google, make sure you're subscribing to the podcast. And if you listen to us on Spotify, you just want to follow us. We're creeping on all those platforms now. You can find us on Amazon as well. Make sure you're leaving those reviews and you're hitting those 5 stars for us. We read every single one of them and we love having you with us. Thank you.
Thank you. Take good care.